I have never tried the brand Made by Mitchell. I've never tried anything from them, but they've been coming out with some interesting makeup, some interesting new things. And I just thought, you know what? Maybe it's time to try them out. So I got some bronzer products, I got a skin tint, and I got a blush. I'm gonna be trying out today. I'm gonna tell you my thoughts. Let's get into it. Alright, the thing I want to start with is the blush. Okay, the thing I want to start with is the new Truth Tint skin tint. So this just came out. It is a glowy sheer skin tint. I got the shade TT2 and it said it was for light skin tones with a cool undertone. The rest seemed a little deeper. It was a little bit tough to make a choice online, but now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, it will probably work for me now. But once I get a little bit more tan, this will probably not work. If I end up totally loving this, I can always buy another shade to blend this with, to mix it with, to get my shade. But I think for now, we're still good because it's also like sheer. I do have to say that this one, when I was swatching it, it was a little bit of a messy situation. I mean, we have this little, like, I don't even know how you call it. This little thing where the product comes out and it just kept coming out. It kept just kind of like overflowing. I don't know what that is about, but we're just really gonna shake it well. You're supposed to shake it well, and I'm gonna zoom you in a little bit. Alright, so I've been really dealing with dry skin and things not looking the best on my dry skin. So we're gonna see if this is gonna work. I am gonna start with a little and I'm just gonna apply it with my hands. Okay, this is looking scary. Let's see if this will go somewhere that I like. It's definitely a very light shade, so if you have light skin, then you know this might work for you. So I'm just gonna take my time blending this in. I have found that I like using skin tints with my hands more than with a brush. I feel like it gets more stripy with a brush, so that is why I'm doing it like this. Okay, it looked a little scary and I feel like I look a little ghostly, so I'm gonna blend it down a little. I don't feel like it's much lighter than my skin tone. Maybe I have to get used to this a little bit and, I don't know, bronze it up a little. Like, it's not that different from my neck. Okay, so far I would say that this is looking really good on my skin. I saw a video on the Made by Mitchell Instagram where this looked super like wet looking, almost like wet skin. But I feel like the glow of this is quite natural. The glow looks quite nice. I don't see it looking weird anywhere. It seems to look just fine. Like, I don't see any weirdness where I have some dry skin usually. Like, usually here it will look a little dry and around my nose, but I don't see any issues with that. Of course, it's gonna be the question, like, how is this gonna wear throughout the day? But so far I feel like this is looking really good. I just feel like I might pick up a deeper shade if I end up really liking how this wears. I feel like there's a lot of potential here. The more I look at it, the more I like it. It feels a little tacky. I might set it a little bit in the end, like after all the other products. But at least from the look of this, I feel like this is the thing that I've worn in the past few months that has looked the best on my skin. Like, everything else that I've applied on my skin the past few months looked kind of bad. Like, even things that I used to love before. So I'm actually pretty impressed. I am gonna go in with the tiniest bit of concealer. I'm using the Liquid Camouflage High Coverage by Catrice, just over here. This one is definitely a little deeper than the skin tint. Okay, I think it is time to bronze this up because, I don't know. Maybe I just have to get used to it a little bit. Maybe I'm like that TikTok girl who found her foundation match and was like shocked at how ghostly it looked, but it was actually like truly her skin tone. So maybe I'm actually this pale. Let me know what you think. I am not that experienced with skin tints, foundation, things like that, but I'm kind of experimenting with it like a low coverage product on the skin. Definitely a little tacky. Okay, the next thing we're gonna try is the Blursh Balm Bronzed. This is the shade Hollow there. And this actually looks like a really nice shade. It is very balmy, I think. Like in a swatch, this looked really balmy. So I don't know if this is gonna dry down or if it's gonna be a little bit like that sticky type of balmy bronzer. So we're gonna see. I really like the shade of this one. I do think it's funny that it's called the Blursh Balm. Wow, Blursh is like the name for blush, I believe. The name that he has for blush, and this is not a blush, it's a bronzer. Alright, I think I'm just gonna apply directly to the skin and then we'll see. Okay, that feels kind of like sticky. It isn't really like gliding over this skin tint situation. Maybe this is not the best way to do this. By the way, this one has some scent to it. It smells kind of perfumey. It's not really like something I can really place, but it's very perfumey. Okay, this is blending out really easily and it's a really nice shade. It definitely has that balmy glow to it, no shimmer or glimmer whatsoever, but it is definitely balmy. But that is super easy to use and it still has like pigment to it and it's a really nice shade. But yeah, I can definitely smell the perfume. It kind of makes me think of Kiko Milano, like that type of, I don't know, florally perfume. And I do like a little bit of floral in my perfume, but not like totally floral perfumes. Like it can be a hint of it. Okay, I think this is looking quite nice now. I'm just gonna take what's left on my brush on my neck a little. Are we matching enough? Like, is this matching enough? All right, I feel like this bronzer is pretty subtle, but I also have another bronzer product, so probably we'll fix that later. I really thought that this shade of Blursh, the liquid Blursh, looked really interesting. So I don't believe this is new. The rest is more new. This isn't, but I just wanted to try it. So this is the one in Strawberry Cream. It is like this really light cool tone pink. Seemed a little bit moussey in the swatch. So we're gonna see how I like this on the cheeks. So I'm just gonna apply on one side first. And I'm just gonna take a blush brush, and let's see how this looks on my fair skin. I don't know if I love it with the brush. It looks a little stripy. Like, I like the color, but don't know if I love the finish like that. Should I blend it a bit with my finger, or is it the... Am I kind of like moving around the skin tint? I don't know what's happening. Like, it doesn't look terrible, but it also doesn't look like effortlessly perfect. I hate applying liquid blushes and products like that with my fingers. How should I just try that? I always feel like it's so hard to blend like that. I don't know, maybe it's in my imagination. So this blush just has a very wide base, and I feel like maybe because of that it just ends up looking a little streaky, like it's so wide based. But then, like, if this is gonna look good on anyone, I feel like it's gonna be me, because I am very fair and I'm like neutral to cool, so I feel like then it would be me. Okay, that didn't really fix it, so we're gonna try the brush again. It just looks a little strange when I first blended, but it's kind of like sinking into my skin almost. Like, it's kind of automatically blending into it after like a little bit of time. It's really strange. As if it needs some time to kind of mesh with my skin. Okay, so I kind of tapped over the area that looked a little weird, and now it seems kind of fine, and it does seem different. Like, after a little bit it looks different. I don't know what's going on here, but it's quite a cute blush like this. I just don't really know how I will feel about grabbing this blush when it's kind of like scary to blend. I definitely think I will need some more time with this blush to see how I feel. But right now it's looking good, it's looking natural, it's looking glowy, it's looking quite nice. Alright, next product. Is this the last product? Yeah, this is the last thing I'm gonna try today. And I'm not really sure how I'm gonna feel about this. So this is the bronze pot, or one of the bronze pots. And this is in the shade Baking Gloves. This is a baked luminous bronzer. It has kind of like this button that you can push and then it opens up, which is kind of nice because it's not hard to open because of that. I do have to say, looking at this, it looks kind of gray. It looks like it's gonna be kind of gray, but then when I swatched it, it looked very golden with a golden glow. And then when I look at it in a pan, it looks kind of shimmery, but then when I swatch it, it looks more like a glow. So I don't really know what to think about this, like what to expect from this. But we are just gonna apply this. I'm just gonna apply this on top of what I've already done. It's kind of powdery. I think I'm gonna start at my forehead. I believe this is one of the more lighter shades, but that is looking kind of scary. Ooh, that is a little much. Okay, just like a little. Like, it's so powdery that like a little goes a long way. It looks kind of nice though from afar, but I'm gonna check for shimmers as well. So a little over here. It's more of a neutral bronzer, I would say, but there's something kind of like grayish in the base, kind of like setting the other bronzer balm stick with this. Just gonna blend the forehead a little bit with a clean brush. Okay, so that one is very pigmented, but I feel, are you seeing this? I feel like it's looking quite good. I feel like my skin overall is looking quite good. I do see a little bit of sparkle on my forehead from that bronzer, but it's like kind of minimal. I don't think you're gonna see that in most lights, and I do like the glow of it. Zoomed you out a little bit more so you can see from a little bit more afar. So I do quite like the glow of the bronzer. I personally would take out the sparkle because I don't feel like this bronzer needs that. But I feel like that's looking good. I think I'm gonna set my face a little because I I wanna set a few specific areas because I feel like I might be a little on the glowy side, but actually I don't feel like it would be that bad. But I do like setting my forehead a little bit. So we're gonna see how it's gonna wear with and without powder. So a little over here and a little here. Those are not places where I ever get creasing. So we're still gonna see how this is gonna wear. A little under my eyes, just a little. If this is gonna crease, it's gonna crease right here or right there. And that is kind of like the only places where I have issues with the wear. And if it's gonna crease through the powder. That just always happens. But it's just, I just want my pores to be a little bit less visible. Like I want it to be a little bit more controlled, the glow to certain places. All right, I'm gonna film another video. I'm gonna go about my day and then I will be back with a little bit of a wear update. It has been about 5 hours. I applied all of this in the afternoon and it's now night, pretty late at night for me at least. And I have some thoughts. Like, it's not a full wear test, but I definitely have some things to say already. So about this skin tint, I think I'm really gonna like this. I see no weirdness, I see no dry patches, there's no creasing here, there's no creasing anywhere, and it just looks good all over my face. It is a pretty subtle skin tint, like it is thin, it doesn't feel thick on the skin, it isn't like a high coverage, it's a light coverage skin tint, but I actually think this is perfect for me right now. This is very hydrating, it is glowy, but it's not as glowy as something like this, which looks worse on me at this moment than this. And it's kind of like, it first feels a little tacky, but then it kind of like naturally sets down because of my dry skin, and it kind of like all meshes together and combines with my skin in a way that actually stays feeling and looking good. So I actually feel like there's a lot of potential here. Maybe I will try it with some different things underneath or with some different primers, but so far I actually really like it, and I feel like overall like The look of this color on the skin is actually really good, and it's set down and it's not super glowy or sticky on me. I do feel like if you have like oily skin, it might be a little bit more of a difficult skin tint to make work for you. But I have seen people say in the comments of the Made by Mitchell Instagram that they have oily skin and they really like it, and that it just stays put when they set it down. So it might work for you. I feel like this is gonna be one that I'm gonna wear quite a lot. Of course, I have to wear it a little bit longer to really see how it wears, but if I don't see any creasing now, I'm actually very hopeful. So far, so good. It looks really good. It looks really natural. I don't see any weirdness. It just looks like my skin, but just a slight bit of coverage. It just looks a little bit more even, and that is what I want. That is what I want, because that gives me just enough, just a little bit extra without the hassle. So I am very excited about this one so far. I'm probably gonna pick up a deeper shade once these become available again. Like, they sold out really quickly. I'll probably go a shade up. And by the way, right now, like after applying this on my face, I haven't had the issue with the packaging, so I don't know what was happening at first, but now it seems fine. Like, I hope it's not gonna be messy anymore. Then we have the cream bronzer Balm. This one is very natural, very balmy. It is the case with all of these cream products that they felt a little tacky at first when I first applied them, but it kind of like, it dried down to more of a creamy feel. It doesn't feel too sticky, nothing is sticking to it. This is a very natural, easy to use, balmy bronzer. I definitely want to try this with different products, but so far I actually really like the look of this and the color of this. It blends really easily. It's just a little different than what I'm used to, because this is very balmy. It's not as much of a cream to powder, but I see some potential here as well. Like, this is a pretty cute product. It wasn't too tacky, too sticky, and it was pretty easy to use. Then the Blursh is a really interesting one. I think probably also because of the color. But when I first applied it, I was like, where is this going? This is not looking good. But then it kind of like meshes into the skin quite naturally. It just kind of magically melts into the skin if you let it sit for a little bit longer, and then it all looks good. It has kind of like a slightly glowy look to it. It is quite natural. It is a little bit like on the moussey side. Once again, this is not a full dry down situation. It still feels a little tacky, but it could also be because of the skin tint that this makes everything else still feel a little tacky, because this gives a more creamy finish to the skin than when I'm not using a product like this. But so far so good. I think this is gonna be a pretty interesting one. Once it does kind of like set down on my skin, I feel like the color becomes a little bit more deep. Like, I don't get this exact shade. It's more of a natural rosy flush. And then lastly, the Bronze Spots Baked Bronzer. I was kind of scared for this one. In the end, I do like it quite a bit. It is a bit pigmented, but if you use a fluffy brush, it's gonna be fine. The only thing that I would have preferred is if this didn't have any shimmer in it. Like, it doesn't look too overpowering, it's not too much, but you see a few shimmers here and there. I do like the general look of this bronzer. It's quite a nice natural finish. It's a natural sheen. I quite like the color in the end. It's a little bit of a mix of a cool toned base with a golden glow on top, kind of like a little bit of both. Like, it adds some definition and some warmth. I think my feelings of this one, they're not gonna change, because I just know that I don't love such a visible shimmer in a bronzer like this, but I feel like I can look past it. I think this is still gonna be a cute one. Alright, so that's gonna be my first encounter with Made by Mitchell. I would say it was pretty successful, and I'm pretty excited to try these things out a little more. I will see you in my next one. Bye bye.